7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's now time for the Pony Cake Sports Podcast with your hosts, Josh Stevens, Tim Thompson, and Tom Schultz. Woo!
We are back for yet another episode, and unfortunately, once again, we are without my friend and yours, our leader, Joshua Stevens. But I am here with Tom. Tom, how are you?
Kind of bummed out, Tim. You know,
I know it's weird.
Like you said, Josh ain't here. He's our fearless leader. He leads us into battle every week, and now we got to do it without him. It's quite interesting.
I shouldn't say again. He's not here. This is the first episode. It's just you and I. We've never done this before.
Yeah.
This is new. There's a good chance that I'm going to mess this up. Josh was very vocal about me messing things up.
He's kind of mean, kind of nasty.
Yeah, you know, he's kind of a mean-hearted little bitch.
San Francisco has changed him.
That's what. Yeah, it has. That's what we have. Actually, a flying around the Pony Cake Sports studio. I just believe that's Joshua Stevens with us here in spirit. Just being annoying. It's actually on my computer. Oh, just missed him. But nevertheless, we are Pony Cake Sports. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at Pony Cake Sports. You can follow Josh on Twitter at Pony Keg Sports. You can follow Tom at Pony_Keg_Tom. And you can follow me at Fight Talk Tim. We are here this week. We are talking about some of the big-time depth chart battles going into the preseason. As we know, this week is week one, kind of the preseason. It's the Hall of Fame game. Bears versus Ravens. Urlacher and Lewis both going into the Hall of Fame. So they have these games going on. Should be a shit show, as always. But there's about, I think you and I came up with 9 teams. 9 teams who are really have a pretty impressive depth chart battle when it comes to running backs. We're only talking running backs today. That's kind of the bread and butter of the fantasy football world. You don't have a good running back, odds are you're not going to win. So that's where we are starting. We're going to try to get through all 9 teams. Tom, let's just get it started. Team number 1. Michael Agent, one of the hosts on the show last week, his Green Bay Packers are starting us off, and kind of a cluster right now. Ty Montgomery, T.Y. as I like to call him, blew up a couple years ago, fallen off a little bit here. Aaron Jones, supposed to be a big deal. He's still potentially facing some legal issues. I don't think that's been sorted out yet. And they have Jamal Williams, who was drafted last year, and people thought he would be something. Nobody really knows. Got Devontae Mays, Joel Bogunyan. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know. But basically those 3, Williams, Jones, Montgomery. What do you think?
It's a 3-horse race right now. You know, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and Ty Montgomery all played a good amount of time last year. For me, though, I think the best option for the Packers and the guy that I think they're going to choose is going to be Jamal Williams. Look, the first 8 weeks of the year, he didn't play much. Got a chance to start in the Chicago Bears game, that Thursday night game when Ty Montgomery got hurt early, and he ended up getting hurt. But eventually when Aaron Jones got hurt as well, Jamal had a chance to shine, and he really lived up to expectations. They drafted him earlier than Aaron Jones last year, and I think he's the most well-rounded running back that they do have. Aaron Jones struggles a lot receiving the football, only caught about, I think it was right at 50% of his targets last season. He also struggled a lot with pass protection. Yes, he is the most dynamic runner that this football team has right now, but the Packers, who leads that football team? It is Aaron Rodgers. He's the engine that makes this freaking team go, and without him being protected, especially with him missing significant amount of games in 2 of the last 4 seasons, this team will go nowhere without him. They need to worry about protecting him. Jamal Williams will do that. He averaged under 4 yards per carry last season, but I think he'll be consistent enough. He's by far the best pass blocker, and he's very good receiving the football as well out of the backfield.
Double A Ron is definitely the brains behind the operation. That's why I believe, listen, last year there were struggles there, but when was T.Y. Montgomery's blow-up year? 2 years ago when Double A was healthy and doing well. I think they're going to try to reignite that early, but I do see all 3 of these guys having significant fantasy games this year. It's going to be a crapshoot at times. You might start one and get 2 points. You might have to start one on an odd week and get 15 points. You just never know with this team. Tom, I'll ask you this, which is what I'm going to ask you with every single team. Is there a guy on this roster that you see as a running back 1 or running back 2?
I think Jamal Williams has the best chance to be an RB2 right now. The first 2 weeks of the year, he will be starting for this football team. Aaron Jones is suspended. Williams is going the earliest. He's going at 7, 12, and 12-team leagues. 37th running back off the board, and I think he's got the best chance to finish as an RB2. Last year in limited snaps, and he finished just outside the top 30 in PPR formats. And that's without playing in a significant role in 7 games, which I think is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. If you listen to Pony Keg Sports religiously, like you should, you would know that already because we've been high on him since he was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. So Jamal Williams, your guy to look for in that depth chart. Let's move on. Tom, I'm going to save your team. I'm going to move on to the New England Patriots. Obviously, they bring in one of the most explosive running backs in this draft class in Sony Michel. He's entering a crowded backfield right now, not to mention joining one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Sony Michel's in the backfield with Jeremy Hill, with Rex Burkhead, James White, Mike Gillislee, and I believe Brandon Bolden's still back there.
You say Jeremy Hill too? He's there.
I did. Yeah. So
it's crazy.
5 to 6 running backs in that backfield right now. You would think they'd have to slim that down a little bit, unless some of those guys are able to tackle and play some special teams as well. Who do you think is not necessarily the guy? Who's going to be the surprise guy in this backfield?
Surprise guy will probably be Rex Burkhead in my eyes. I think a lot of people are kind of growing on him right now. He's being drafted as the 33rd running back off the board. And I think between him and Sony Michel, one of those two guys, they're going to be the lead dog in this backfield. You got to think last year with the most successful running back they had was Dion Lewis. He had right around like 210 total touches. And I think Sony and Rex Burkhead both have a chance to reach that goal and reach that plateau. And whoever gets to that magic number just over 200, I think they have a potential to be a low-end RB1 or a high-end RB2.
I've been down on Sony Michel on the Patriots. He makes me nervous seeing someone with his talent there because you never really know what Bill Belichick is going to do, how he's going to act. But to your and Josh's point, you've swayed me a little bit here. Belichick's not going to spend that type of draft capital on a player like this without trying to utilize him. Interested to see how it exactly plays out. I think that Jeremy Hill is going to get his. I wonder if they're going to try to use him almost in that LeGarrette Blount role from a couple of years ago in the red zone. You might see a Jeremy Hill outburst in red zone touchdowns. But I agree with you. Sony Michel is my guy. Same question from last time here, Tom. Are any of these guys a running back 1 or running back 2?
I think Sony has the best chance to be an RB1. Right now, he is locked in my top 20, my pre-draft rankings. I think he's got the best chance to be the lead dog, and you brought it up. They spent a first-round draft pick on him. When teams spend first-round draft capital on a running back, they use them. They use them often, and they are normally quite successful their first year. And what makes them successful? When they have a good offense that they're playing in. Josh McDaniels knows how to use running backs. He knows how to make them successful. They got Tom Brady leading that offense as well. They're going to score a lot of touchdowns this year. And Sony Michel is very good running between the tackles. He's good on the outside zone runs as well. The only thing you have to worry about him is fumbling.
Yep.
He could end up in that doghouse very fast. I believe over his college career, every 60 touches, he put the ball on the ground. That is not good. That'll get him in Bill Belichick's doghouse very fast. The only good thing is his 4 years at Georgia, it got better. His fumbling percentage got better each year. Hopefully that continues to get better and that he gets majority of the work there for the New England Patriots this year.
I think there's something to be said, not to overhype it, but the fellow first-round draft pick for the New England Patriots, Isaiah Wynn, obviously played in front of Sony Michel for his all of his time at Georgia, and all the wide receiver issues that they have in New England with injuries, everything else. The PEDs for Edelman's out for 4 games, right? 4 games or 3 games?
4.
4 games. I mean, listen, it's still Tom Brady. They're going to find a way to whip the ball around, but I do agree with you guys. Sony Michel has a real shot there of being a running back number 2 in the 2018 fantasy football season. Let's move on to one of my teams that I've been actually building this running back up quite a bit, the Detroit Lions. They've struggled just as much as the Patriots, but with way less success out of their backfield. They go ahead, they draft Kerryon Johnson, they have Theo Riddick in front of them, they have Amir Abdullah, LeGarrette Blount joins the team, so they got the old veteran. Even Zach Zenner saw some big-time playing time. So they have another 5 guys, another team where, listen, Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick have both played big roles for them at time. I don't see how both make camp, in all honesty. What are your thoughts on the Lions depth?
It is such a cluster, right now. I think the only guy... I think right now there's 2 guys guaranteed to make this running back roster, and that would be Theo Riddick and Kerryon Johnson for me. I think they're the 2 most valuable guys right now. And, I have kind of given you a lot of crap, Tim, for drafting Kerryon Johnson. Maybe a little bit earlier than I would prefer right now. But his ADP, it is sneaking up right now. People are taking a little flyer on him at the end of the 6th,
They've been listening
7th.
to this show.
Yeah.
They love them some Timmy Streets.
It's smart. You did that a couple weeks ago. It was a little bit before that got popular. Now it's getting extremely popular. People are seeing the writing on the wall that Kerryon Johnson is probably the most talented running back that the Detroit Lions have had since possibly Barry Sanders, in all honesty. I really do like Kerryon Johnson's game. Very good receiver, very patient. And one thing that's underrated that people don't talk about, they've been investing into that offensive line. 2 of the last 3 years, they have spent a first-round pick in that offensive line. They spent big money on Ricky Wagner at the right tackle spot. This team wants to change. They brought in Matt Patricia. They know the importance of a run game, play good defense, and help Matthew Stafford out. If I had to pick one guy, it's going to be Kerryon Johnson right now in this backfield.
I see Theo Riddick getting cut from this team. Not sure of his contract information, but I think they're gonna roll with Amir Abdullah, Kerryon Johnson, and LeGarrette Blount. This backfield with those 3. Not saying Johnson's gonna have the same type of success. Reminds me a lot of the New Orleans Saints backfield last year. LeGarrette Blount, hopefully he doesn't pull an AP.
Yeah.
But I see Kerryon Johnson. He's going to end up being a very, very valuable asset. He's going to get his. And like you mentioned, Patricia they're going to try to run the ball down your throat. Just because he was with New England doesn't mean that that's how he's going to run his offense.
The one thing I do differ with you, I think Theo will make the team. I think Abdullah is going to get cut.
Abdullah.
I just think Abdullah has been just too inconsistent, really hasn't been able to stay healthy. And, yeah, Blount can be that goal line workhorse kind of back. I think Theo, obviously, they're that pass-catching threat, and Kerryon the guy that could do both and possibly be the lead dog eventually.
Trying to get away from the potential of ruining Matthew Stafford's career with no running back. Let's move on here to I think this is my most polarizing team in the NFL. We've talked about it at length at times, but I just cannot stand the Seattle Seahawks. And both of my final mocks the last 2 seasons, I have said just draft an offensive lineman in the first round. Protect Russell Wilson. Stop putting everything on his shoulders. And Pete Carroll, like he does to everyone else, just gave me the middle finger and said, stick it, champ. Instead, they take a running back in the first round. They now have Rashad Penny, that first-round draft pick, Chris Carson, who was doing great before he got hurt last year. CJ Prosise is there. Mike Davis was brought in. They drafted another kid. I think he was signed as a free agent. Khalid Hill was brought in, but
still
he's
got
not
J.D. McKissick.
McKissick's still there. So they have a lot of different. It seems like Penny's the guy. Does Penny have the body and the style to last with no offensive line? To live in the Russell Wilson scrambling for my life? Does he have the receiving ability to be the guy that the Seattle Seahawks are going to want and be out on the field, 80% of the snaps?
I'm definitely worried about his receiving ability in college. He averaged it was right at 1 catch per game in college football. That's not something you love to see. He's got that big size, though. He's 5'11", 224 pounds, I believe. Has got good size. His BMI is high, which is good. It's what you want for a bell cow running back. And what the Seahawks want, and obviously what they really needed since Marshawn Lynch has left, is a big physical running back who could pound the rock when they need to, not to put the whole game into Russell Wilson's hands. He hasn't been that effective since, he's been very good in fantasy, but this team has not been winning football games like they used to when they had that stellar Legion of Boom defense, along with that violent running game that they had with Marshawn Lynch. Personally, I do like Rashad Penny. I think he's a very good athlete. Played at a small school. That offensive line they had there was absolutely dominant. Had over 2,000 rushing yards in a collegiate season. Led the NCAA last season, which is nothing to really frown down upon. The only thing I am worried about is that offensive line, Tim. It's Dwayne Brown. They got him in that trade with the Houston Texans last year.
Paid him?
Yeah, they paid him finally. Ethan Pochik they got last year. They got Jamarco Jones in this year's draft super late. I thought he was a lot better tackle prospect.
Fifth rounder.
Yeah. I thought he should have went a lot earlier than that. But I'm still worried about this offensive line. I'm worried about game flow. I think their defense is going to be bad. I can see them being in a lot of shootouts, which normally isn't good for a guy who I think is going to be more of a first and second down kind of pounder in between the tackles. I think a CJ Prosise or a JD McKissick might get a lot more usage than we're thinking right now. But it's kind of tough to call right now for Seattle.
We mentioned it in the last episode. Josh said, kind of saying, hey, who's Russell Wilson throwing to? You have to be concerned with the injury to Doug Baldwin. I forgot. I'm looking at it now. Brandon Marshall's there. Yeah. So I know it's a guy. It's a guy who's reliable if he can keep his head on straight, which he couldn't anywhere.
Good blocker.
If he can, exactly, he can block. My biggest concern, like you said, is they still have DJ Fluker starting for them.
Yep.
DJ Fluker is a joke. He should probably not be on any NFL team, or should just be a fill-in at this point in his career. Detrimental to the New York Giants these last couple seasons. The biggest thing to me for Penny is, are they going to be able to keep the other running backs healthy enough to not run Penny into the ground and put him into the same exact situations as CJ Prosise, who was promising, couldn't stay healthy. Chris Carson, promising, couldn't stay healthy. I'm very, very interested to see what happens to Rashad Penny. I know you like him, and you've read a lot of things out there. People are comparing him to be this year's Alvin Kamara. I don't see it, but we will see.
Personally, I think he's going too early, 4-10 in a 12-team league, super early. You laughed at me when I think I took him beginning of the 6th round in a 10-team league. That's good value. I know you hate it.
I do.
But they also, another thing working for them is their new offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. Very just likes to pound the football, likes to run the football. And we saw Frank Gore with a terrible quarterback last season, a terrible offensive line, finish in the top 20 just due to volume alone. So I think that's why I'm kind of higher on Rashad Penny than you are right now.
I'm interested to see the dynamic that Schottenheimer and Pete Carroll have this season.
Oh, it's going to be a disaster.
Those are a couple of big egos right there that I just see it. I would not be surprised to see the Seattle Seahawks struggle and Pete Carroll be on the hot seat early this season. I'll call that right now, very early. Let's move on to the easiest one, in my opinion. This is another time that I am sad that Joshua Stevens is not here, talking about his favorite team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're without their quarterback, Jameis Winston, the crotch grabber. And they've got some running backs now. They draft Ronald Jones, and they have Jacquizz Rodgers, they have Charles Sims, they have Peyton Barber. To me, I'm going to start here because to me it's a no-brainer. I've built this guy up at length, at nauseum. He's listed at number 2 on the depth chart right now because they're trying to make him earn it. Ronald Jones, what he did at USC was phenomenal. In that offense that was not focused around him, it was focused around putting the responsibility in the quarterback's lap with a bad offensive line and with talented wide receivers around him. And he just went out there and scored a bunch of touchdowns, ran for a bunch of yards, and did what he had to do. He can catch the ball. he's a complete package. I think it's a no-brainer. I think he is your running back 1, and I think he's going to push for a running back 2 in fantasy football this year.
No, I agree with you, Tim. I was hoping I got to start because I was going to go on a little tangent about Peyton Barber being the guy just to see your pissed off face and then pull the rug out from under you. But Rojo, he should be the guy. I think early on in the year, he might not, I'm not projecting him to be that 20-plus touches early on in the season. I think for the first 3-4 games, possibly 10 to 15 touches, let the other vets kind of get the ball. But his playmaking ability is going to shine through. They've also upgraded this offensive line. They got Ryan Jansen from the Baltimore Ravens, who should be playing center for this football team. Very good run-blocking center. You look at what Alex Collins did running behind him last year in Baltimore. This offense should be more explosive. Hopefully, really didn't show it in college being a super versatile receiving threat, but I think he's the type of athlete where it will come more natural to him, more normal. It's you could kind of say the same thing about Sony Michel. They just didn't use him that way, but I think just both of these guys' athletic ability and the type of athletes that I really think they are, what they showed at the combine, that they can be that 30 to 50 type reception type of athlete, and I do like Ronald Jones a lot this year. Being drafted as the 27th running back off the board, a little too late. I think he should be up between 22 and 24.
I just think that with what they're going to have to do early, they're going to try to slow the game down. They're going to try. They don't have their quarterback. They're going to try to slow things down a little bit, even with all of their weapons. Jacquizz Rodgers isn't that guy. And Charles Sims, I mentioned it in the last episode. Blake Bortles was drafted in the same draft class, has more rushing yards than Charles Sims, since we will see what happens. Let's go here a little bit faster now, Tom. We're running out of time a little bit, so we don't have to rush. But the New York Jets, obviously in a rebuild, but they got their quarterback now. Their running back situation. They have Bilal Powell. They bring in Isaiah Crowell. They bring in Thomas Rawls from Seattle. Elijah McGuire broke his leg or his ankle, but he's only out like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like a weird situation. They brought in they drafted Trenton Cannon in the 6th round as well. Not anything there, but it's a name. So they got 4 to 5 guys potentially. Who's the player to own for the New York Jets?
I really don't want to own any of these running backs. I know there's always a time in fantasy where there's good value on the board. Crowell, he was kind of our sleeper pick last year. I think most of us had him in our top 20 last year, some a little bit higher. We like Crowell running behind that offensive line. I do like the Jets' offensive line. I'm just worried about game flow. Crowell has been an all-right receiver, but I think Powell is more prolific and has been better for this football team. But if I had to pick one, it'd be Crowell. He's going at 809, running back 40 right now in 12-team leagues, or running back 39. Getting him as the 39th running back off the board and most likely to be the starting running back who will get probably 50 to 70% of the snaps on any given week. I think that is pretty good value. I'm just really not expecting much out of him. It's kind of just a guy.
You mentioned that, we had Crowell last year. We had him as our kind of sleeper. 2 of these guys on this team, Crowell and Powell, last year. I thought we were going to have great seasons.
Yeah.
They both had great 2016 campaigns and then fell off just completely. I would not be touching any of these guys. You don't know what's going to happen. They have Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater's there. You have to think that they're going to try to see what they can get out of him. And towards the end of the season, when the Jets are bad, Sammy D is going to be getting his as well. So a lot of question marks there in the New York Jets team as a whole. I would not be touching any of these running backs unless it's one of my a backup flex situation. Let's move on to the most interesting backfield in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. Who would have ever thought we'd be saying that? Carlos Hyde gets paid. They bring in, to do that, Duke Johnson, new contract, gets paid. They draft Nick Chubb in the 2nd round. Big name there. Previously, before his injury, was going to be like the guy getting drafted like Gurley. 3 big names there. How do they balance it? Can they balance it? Is there a running back 1? Not a running back 2. Is there a running back 1 in the group?
I don't think there's an RB1 in this group. I think this and the Green Bay Packers are probably the top two backfields that are going to be the hardest to predict right now. We know what Duke Johnson's going to be. He's going to be that third down receiving running back, that guy that's going to get over 50 receptions. Was close to 80 last year. Pretty much put identical numbers up to Christian McCaffrey, and McCaffrey's going as a top 15 running back right now, and Duke Johnson's really nowhere near that. And Carlos Hyde, last year PPR, he was running back number 9. But that was also in a Kyle Shanahan system where he was getting majority of the looks. Only had to split a little bit with a Matt Breida, and now Hyde and Duke Johnson both got paid. And bringing in Nick Chubb, drafting him early in the second round, it's a clusterfuck. I really have no idea who's going to do what between Hyde and Nick Chubb. That's why I'm punting the Cleveland Browns running back group right now. I would take Duke Johnson in like the 9th or 10th round, just getting him as a possible flex when I really need it, just because that floor is going to be there because of those receptions. But the other two, I think it's going to be so here or there each week, it's going to be difficult to call.
Duke Johnson is my running back to take as well, just because I think he's going to get the Chris Thompson treatment. He's familiar with the offense. They know how to use him, and they're going to continue to do so, at least in this coaching staff while it's still there. Interested to see what Carlos Hyde and Nick Chubb bring to that. They've already basically said Nick Chubb won't be out there on third downs. I don't know what they're doing either. I'm staying away from the Cleveland Browns outside of Duke Johnson as well. Second to last team here, we're going to go with the Miami Dolphins. And not a sexy team at all, but there's some fantasy value potentially there. They bring in Frank Gore. You mentioned him earlier from Indy. They have Kenyon Drake, who had a fantastic year last year for them. And they draft Kalen Ballage.
Yep.
How do you say his name? Ballage in the 4th round. 3 guys there. I love Drake. I've talked about that at nauseum, but what do you think?
Once Kenyon Drake got a legit chance to play, got legit snaps, and got the opportunity once Jay Ajayi was traded, he looked very good. But last season was the first time he's ever really gotten the chance to be a lead dog. He wasn't that in high school. He wasn't that at Alabama. Was more just of an athlete, a returner, and a specialist type player. And that's kind of what he's been for the Miami Dolphins as well. But you got to look, when he got that chance last year, he had 4 games over 20 points. He had 2 more games over 10 points. And he didn't start playing legit amount of snaps until week 9. And that's pretty impressive, getting 6 games of that type of caliber. He won people fantasy championships last year. He was a badass in the playoffs, and that's something you have to like. But you have to be worried about Frank Gore. He's going to be that pesky fly that's flying around you right now. He's just going to be a nuisance out there. He's going to go out there, steal some goal line touches, get a couple touchdowns here or there that you're wishing that Kenyon Drake had gotten. And that I'm nervous about this backfield. I think Drake's going too high, especially with, I didn't even talk about Kalen Ballage, who's another freak kind of athlete. This is another running back group that I'm punting.
I'm not punting. I believe that they brought Frank Gore in to mentor Kenyon Drake, to teach him. Kenyon Drake's the only guy in this backfield who they're going to be out there first down, second down, third down, and they can put him out there a majority of it. Ballage will get 2 carries, 3 carries a game. Gore might get 5 to 7, but I fully expect Kenyon Drake to get his. Tom, lastly and quickly, I want to talk about your Indianapolis Colts. Very interesting backfield. You and I were the 2 highest people on Marlon Mack last year. They draft Nyheim Hines, who you and I are both high on again. Jordan Wilkins, I don't know much about him. Colts backfield, Tom, who?
I think Marlon Mack he'll get majority of the touches, going 701 right now, running back 32 off the board. But it's a total running back by committee. Nyheim Hines is that Darren Sproles type running back, will be getting third down work. And, God, you just said his name, I'm having a brain fart.
Hines, Wilkins?
Jordan Wilkins. He's late round pick. Reminds me a lot of Matt Forte. A lot of people are saying that. Very physical, more of that physical goal line work guy. And you got Turbin will be coming back week 5.
If I'm a heavy wide receiver team and I need a flex, I'm going to be looking at Marlon Mack.
Yep.
That's who's going to. I have faith in him, and I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table with one robot arm, Andy Luck.
Hey, you got to think Frank Gore was top 20 running back
Yep.
with the Colts last season with a average quarterback. And Frank Gore was I I believe last year he played with Andrew Luck, was running back 14 in PPR. A running back that's as explosive as Marlon Mack with Andrew Luck and a quarterback-friendly, running back-friendly offense. Sky's the limit for Marlon Mack or Hines or Wilkins, in all honesty.
We rolled through 9 teams there pretty quickly. Out of all those teams, Tom, what running back do you like the most? I know that's a broad question, but we talked probably about close to 40 running backs there. If you had to take one to be on your team, you had your pick. Who are you taking?
Probably Sony Michel. Patriots like the offense. I really have faith that he's taking over that Deion Lewis role in that offense, and Lewis was a top 12 running back last year.
I will continue to scream from the mountaintops, Ronald Jones is your guy. I'm not getting off that until he makes me. That's it. That's it, Tom. It was a good show. No Josh, but I think we did all right.
It was pretty good. You know, this Rogue Energy, our new sponsors there.
I was going to make you feed them.
This is really helping me out. My concentration's at a whole new, another level. Not even drinking Monsters anymore. Rogue Energy, great flavors. We have a blue raspberry. We got, pineapple mango. Delicious product here. Check them out at therogueenergy.com.
Rogue Energy, it just reminds me of Star Wars. But nevertheless, Rogue Energy, make sure to check them out. I am Tim Thompson. He is Tom Schultz. This is Pony Keg Sports. Make sure to check us out on Facebook at Pony Keg Sports. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter. Josh, who is not here, at Pony Keg Sports. Even though he's traveling around, he's in San Francisco, he's going to be bouncing around from camp to camp to camp because that's the type of guy he is. We are taking money out of our pockets to send him around the world because, let's be honest, he has no one here who loves him, so he has the time to go out there and do that. Follow Tom on Twitter at Pony_Keg_Tom and follow me at Fight Talk Tim. Until next time, peace.